This podcast contains strong language and adult themes. Listener's discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to A Page Too Far, the show where each week, I went from, like, attempting to do a Roshi to,
You almost sound like a parrot.
This is a show where each week, one of us reads a book and tells the other all about it. Will it be bad? Will it be good? Who knows? Y'all have heard this before.
Have they, though? This might be the first episode they're listening to.
Look, if this is your first episode, awesome.
Pick a different one.
Let us... Maybe. We'll see. This should be fine. It should be fine.
So before we begin, there's a couple things we need to address.
Yeah.
The first one is we redid our Patreon tiers.
We did.
So if you, listener, are a patron, double check if you would like to remain a patron. Double check to make sure you're still on a tier or something, because it might have kicked you off when we were changing them up.
Right.
But we changed it up. We made the top tier a little bit more accessible. We have polls that we're going to start putting up.
Yep. First one's going up tomorrow as of recording date.
Yep. And doing personal shout outs. So that's awesome. The number 2 thing is on our last episode, Children of the Gland God.
Yes.
I said I paid $10 for a 15-page book.
Right.
And then you said that's $1.50 a page. And then I agreed with you, because I always just agree without thinking.
Oh, yeah, my math was wrong there.
Yes. No, it's actually around 67 cents a page.
Yeah, no, I did it the other way. I did $15 for a 10-page book.
Exactly. So
interesting.
I just want to clear that up, because people are going to be like screaming when they hear that.
Look, I never proclaimed to be a math expert.
Me neither.
So this week I read a book. Oh, I'm Despero, by the way. My name is Despero, and with me as always is my co-host Margalo.
What?
Margalo.
I haven't heard of that.
Have you seen Stuart Little 2?
No. Why would I have seen Stuart Little 2?
Because it came out when you were like 6?
I didn't watch movies when I was 6.
Oh.
I watched Star Wars. That was it.
I had to see Stuart Little 2 instead of... all of my family went to see Alien vs. Predator, and I had to go see Stuart Little 2. Which I love Stuart Little 2, don't get me wrong. It's really good.
You were robbed.
I was robbed.
Of an experience.
Yeah. But now every time I think of either one of those, I think of that experience, and it makes me laugh. It's genuinely funny. Me and my mom saw Stuart Little, and everyone else saw Alien vs. Predator. The original, not Requiem, which is terrible. Margalo is the name of the little bird who's Stuart Little's kind of like crush in Stuart Little 2.
Ew.
Look, nothing happens. It's a kid's movie, but
still cross species. A little weird.
Anyway, do you know who Despero is?
No.
Oh.
No.
He's a mouse from a book called The Tale of Despero that's like...
I'm sorry. I didn't have a childhood.
I know you didn't, but like, thought maybe you'd have heard of that one. He uses a sewing needle as a sword, and it's kind of cute.
That sounds badass.
It's a little kid's like fantasy kind of story.
Yeah.
It's good if you're 6. Anyway, I've read a book. It took me about half an hour.
Right.
Because I picked up this book, and it was 124 pages, 103 pages. I'm wrong.
Okay.
So 103 pages, right? I'm like, oh, that's a little short, but maybe there's a lot of content. We'll see. And it cost me like $1.
Right.
So I was like, I mean, might as well. I open the book and find out that there's like 10 pages of preface.
Okay.
And like 30 pages of notes at the end.
Oh.
So it's a 70-page book.
Right. Okay.
Which is not a lot.
No.
Not a lot at all. I read I Moved Your Cheese.
I move your cheese.
I moved.
Moved, past tense.
Moved, past tense. For those who refuse to live as mice in someone else's maze.
I want to say I drink your milkshake. Is it a similar context?
Kind of. I mean, the title says it all, right? Like, you're in a maze of somebody else's corporate design and you want to get out of it.
Okay.
By Deepak Malhotra. Probably pronounced that wrong. And it also says Harvard Business School at the bottom.
Oh.
I mean, Deepak Malhotra, Harvard Business School.
They hired him to write it, maybe.
Yeah. The cover is fine. Take a look.
It's a plain white box with a cream-colored border, and in the very center, it's a very small graphic of a maze. Your average square maze.
There's a picture of Deepak on the back.
Oh, there is. I want to be named Deepak.
It's a cool name.
That is an interesting name.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's exactly what I would expect coming out of a business school.
Right, exactly. It's very generic. It's very like, there's nothing eye-catching about this.
Right.
At all. Which I think might be why it caught my eye.
Yeah.
Because I didn't buy this at a bookstore where you would buy this normally, right? I bought it in the clearance section of a used bookstore.
Right, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's it also says the unbeaten path to personal at the top.
Personal what?
I don't know. It's covered by a sticker.
Oh, well, that peels off. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the paper shit. It won't leave a mark.
Oh.
It comes right off.
Well, I'm still not going to do it because I like the fact that it says the unbeaten path to personal. I think it's personal growth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this book is a little bit different. It starts out saying that it is not, in fact, a direct response to another book that was written.
It's not.
It's not. That other book is called Who Moved My Cheese?
Okay, I can
Which is
understand
apparently
why people would think that.
they would, and it's apparently a relatively famous self-help book, kind of like getting your corporate mojo and
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
that kind of thing. But then I read the book, and it is entirely that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he starts out, he's like, this is not a direct response, but also that book is wrong.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So this is a book about three mice.
Okay.
Three mice. You have Max, Zed, and Big. In the last paragraph of the intro,
Okay.
the author says, these characters have been with me for a long time now, and every time I revisit their adventures, I find myself inspired and new. From a thing he wrote.
Yeah, that's very masturbatory.
Yeah. So that's what we're diving into.
Okay.
And on that note, let's dive in. This is I Moved Your Cheese. And I am going to be not reading it directly, but summarizing it. It is meant for book clubs. It is meant for self-help groups and business groups, that kind of thing. So it's a discussion book.
Right.
Exactly. So you kind of need to know, in order to answer the questions, you kind of need to know a little bit more than you normally would about these characters.
Right.
In just a brief summary. There's a few things that don't matter, though, really. We're going to go chapter by chapter. So the first chapter is called The Good Book.
Okay.
The Good Book. Not a reference to the Bible, but it's a reference to the Bible, but it's not the Bible.
Right.
It's their Bible. Their Bible states that they live in a maze. These are mice.
Okay.
It's a civilization of mice. They have always lived in the maze. The maze has always been. The maze will always be. There is cheese in the maze. You need to get that cheese.
Okay.
It also says that the cheese is going to move. When that happens, don't panic. There's more cheese. You just have to find it.
Okay.
We find out that there was a time before the book where people panicked. I say people. I'm going to say people and everything. It's all mice.
It's mice.
It's
yeah.
mice.
Mm-hmm.
People panicked when the cheese disappeared. They would run around frantically, but then they kind of got a little more level-headed and started just going, okay, it's not here. We got to go to the next spot. Okay, it's not here. We got to go to the next spot.
Right.
And that's what their life is. The book puts it in an equation. You want cheese plus the cheese is no longer here equals go elsewhere to find the cheese.
I'm glad he laid that out in an equation. Because I didn't get that.
This is the premise by which they live their lives.
Okay.
Exclusively.
That's all they do.
That's it. If cheese equals no, then go find cheese. I never claimed to be program efficient either.
Right.
And it says, for a mouse in the maze, cheese is really all that matters. But then there's Max.
Maxaroni and cheese?
Maxaroni and cheese. Did you ever see Foster's Home for Imaginary Kids?
No, except
Imaginary
for
Friends? Sorry, not kids.
Not unless you count a someone made a porn version.
Oh no. No.
An animated porn version. So if you don't count that, no.
No, I don't count that.
Okay, I didn't see it.
There's an imaginary friend named Cheese in a couple of the episodes. He's kind of a little recurring character. The main kid's name is Mac, and then his best friend is Blue.
Okay.
Or Blue Regard, actually, is his full name. But yeah, then they find Cheese, and Mac thinks that Cheese is his second imaginary friend creation because he wakes up one day and Cheese is there.
Okay.
So everybody calls him Mac and Cheese.
Okay.
And then Blue becomes friends with Cheese in the end, and their name is now Blue Cheese.
Do you like blue cheese?
No, I hate blue cheese. I can't stand it.
Okay.
Never liked it. Max was a younger mouse, and he has questions, as
natural,
as a lot of younger people do.
Right.
Why do we chase the cheese? And every time he asks his elders, they say the same thing, because it's what we do. Why would you question that?
Tradition!
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They say you don't get to the cheese by wondering why. You get to the cheese by running to the cheese.
Okay.
They're geniuses. Genii. if you will.
So he's asking a question.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you can't do the thing you're questioning by questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just completely sidestepping his concerns here.
Yes, exactly. And that's a recurring theme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So Max is determined, though. He's determined to discover who moved the cheese. Somebody had to move it.
Right.
Who was it? And so he sets off on his journey. And then we don't hear about him again for quite a while.
Does he get a sewing needle?
No.
No?
No, he doesn't get a sewing needle. He does learn how to read and write.
Wow.
Which is pretty dope.
All he can write is cheese.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah, it's just a square with a couple little holes in it.
It's hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
For mice.
Yeah. We have Zed. Zed is the smartest mouse ever.
Okay.
He questions things, but not to other people. He questions them to himself. And then he sits and ponders and thinks and thinks things through. He has a reputation for being wise, although few mice ever speak with him in great depth. He's popular, but he usually only spoke on important matters when someone else initiated the conversation. He's very reserved.
Right.
Zed is.
Silent, strong type.
Pretty much, but with a magnetic personality. He's a mouse like no other. He doesn't care for cheese. He doesn't care to learn how to navigate the maze. He doesn't feel compelled to follow routines and customs of other mice. But he loves his life, the life of a mouse, more than any other mouse had ever known.
Wow.
So dude's just loving what he does. And what he does is his own thing.
Okay.
As a result, the mice who knew him simultaneously revered and feared him.
Okay.
They don't really get into why they fear him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm wrong. They do. But that never comes up again. He's living proof that someone who seemed to challenge their every belief about what was important could still be happy.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So you can be different and still be happy.
Right.
Man, imagine that.
He acts as a mirror to their own faults, and they don't like that.
Pretty much. They see their worst things in him.
Yeah.
The things that nobody talks about, the taboo things.
Mouse lingerie. Anyways.
I was going to say mouse step siblings. One day, Zed was sitting quietly in one corner of the maze, and a small group of mice gathered, as they tend to do. As Zed lifted his eyes, he noticed that they were eager to speak with him. Zed had grown accustomed to such unplanned, informal discussions. He was accustomed to the ways they began, the ways they progressed, and the ways they tended to end. He didn't expect any surprises. But that's why they're called surprises.
Right.
And that's how every chapter in this ends. Like, statement.
Yeah.
Flip it on its head.
Uh-huh.
This chapter is called Why.
Why?
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 Yeah, why?
Wow.
This might be a spoiler, but does Zed die at all?
No.
Fuck.
There's no violence in this whatsoever.
I really wanted to say Zed's dead, baby.
I know. I was waiting for it too. So one of the younger mice asks Zed, he says, a friend of mine and I were discussing the good book. We were talking about how we might learn to accept change, how we might get past idle speculation about why change happens. So that's the whole point of the good book, right? Accept change. It's going to happen.
Right.
You can't do anything about it, which is a point. It's a fair point.
It's a fundamental law of nature.
It is. What's going to happen is going to happen. Just make sure it doesn't happen to you. So these young mice asked Zed, well, certainly you've read the good book. And my friend here mentioned that you don't care for the book. You don't really believe what it says, which is like, you're wrong for thinking that. Why don't you believe the book?
Right.
Yep. Everyone says that you're a great thinker and that you're very wise, but like you're wrong. How can you be wise and a great thinker if you reject the book? And Zed said, I don't disagree. The good book is quite right. Change is inevitable, but it's not important. That's irrelevant. Who cares? That's not something to base a life on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's Zed's point. The young mouse was stunned. He wished Zed had outright disagreed with him. Difficult as it is to hear your thinking is flawed, it's much worse to hear that your thinking is pointless.
Oh.
Which is just a great line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I'm keeping that right up there with your secret is safe with my indifference.
Yeah.
Which is another of my favorite lines. Thank you, No Mercy Percy. Zed says, well, let me ask you a question. You tell me that change is inevitable, but what's so important about this insight of yours? Why does that matter? The mouse says, well, it tells us how to live. It explains what is important. It explains what we can control and what we cannot, so it helps us focus. It tells us how to make the best of our time. It teaches us to be efficient. It helps us become more effective, and maybe it does more. I don't know. Zed says, well, yeah, that's an impressive list, but if I may. And the young mouse says, yeah, of course. He's very polite, Zed is.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you say the insight explains what's important. Tell me, what have you learned is important? What have you been taught to focus on? What goal does the good book suggest you spend your time pursuing? What are you efficient at achieving? Your effectiveness is measured by what standard? Can you guess?
Cheese.
Cheese. Getting cheese.
I'm just going to say I feel like cheese is money and the maze is capitalism.
Pretty much.
Okay.
It can also be a broader spectrum or a more narrow spectrum, depending on what you want to do. But
it is very open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's the whole point is finding what maze are you in, because not everyone's in the same maze.
I'm in the maze of trying to find an anime that'll hold my attention anymore.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
That's very true. I'm in the maze of promoting not cheese, but peanut butter, because rats and mice respond more to peanut butter than they do to cheese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you heat it up a little bit and put it in the maze, and they respond better to it.
Do you know that rats giggle when you tickle them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Young Mouse says, everything that we do is based around cheese. Why? That was the answer. That was Zed's point.
Right.
Why? Look, this book does a lot of like double talk and reinforcing its own point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with it.
So there's another mouse there who's a little bit older. He says, well, what's the point of this? What's the point of this discussion? Who are you to decide what is relevant? Why you agreed that change is inevitable and that it's uncontrollable? And Zed says, I didn't agree to that. I did not agree that change is uncontrollable. If you disagree, then you're a fool, says the elderly mouse. And Zed says, perhaps, which is a very interesting way of approaching something with somebody who you're disagreeing with.
Yeah.
I've found that saying perhaps instead of saying you're wrong is, my job is damage control in terms of like relationships with people. It works better if you give them a chance to be right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even if you know they're wrong. Even if you know they're wrong. It helps a lot. Little tip for anybody out there. Hey, don't be a dick. The elderly mouse says, do you not wish for us to pursue what might make us happy? Zed looks at the mouse and says, well, I wish not that you pursue happiness, but that you actually find it. Is it possible to pursue happiness if the pursuit itself does not make you happy?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is yes.
Right.
But, I mean, the answer is no in this book.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I'm really tired.
That's okay.
This is already too philosophical for me.
Look, you're in a maze.
Yeah.
Right? You need to. I woke up 3 hours ago.
I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
And it's now like 8.
Yeah.
So.
It's 7:30.
It feels like 8.
It does feel like 8. So Zed's like, yo, stop pursuing happiness and actually find it. That's what I'm about. And the other mouse says, but those are fine words, but they're not worth much. A mouse must take the maze as a given. All the mouse has to think about is how best to navigate the maze, and when the cheese moves, the only thing the mouse has to ponder is how to find it again. What would you have us ponder instead?
Are they, they're getting food other than the cheese, right? So it's not a necessity.
It doesn't say. Well, no, it is a necessity. Because if they don't get, later on we find out if they don't get cheese, they don't eat. They're eating cheese only.
So is Zed eating anything?
Yeah. He just doesn't care.
So he's a freeloader.
I mean, he has to find it himself. I mean, yeah.
But he doesn't. You said he doesn't look for the cheese.
He doesn't care to look.
So he stumbles upon it sometimes?
I mean, look, as deep as this book is, it does not go into how a maze actually works with mice in it, and how an economy and a tribe can exist in that maze. It doesn't get that deep.
Yeah, how do they?
It has a very specific point it's trying to tell you.
How do they keep finding each other? Like I assume you get lost a lot.
Yeah.
Couldn't they spread out so that they could each check where the cheese might be within like a couple steps?
You would think.
Okay.
You would think. This does not have that kind of solution.
Okay.
It gets trippy later.
It's limbo. Purgatory.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
It's nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Zed says, hey, there's more things to think about. Why is change inevitable? Why is the maze the way it is? Have you ever thought to ask why mice spend their entire lives in search of cheese? Who moved the cheese? Everyone's like, yo, shut the fuck up.
Okay.
Yeah, to Zed.
Shut the squeak up.
Childish, ludicrous, impractical, preposterous.
They had Ludicrous there?
Yeah.
Damn.
Luda. Yeah. No one can know who moved the cheese. There's no answer to that. Zed says, I know who moved the cheese, and I know why they moved it. Bum, bum, bum. Even the Impossible is the name of this next chapter.
Okay.
Even the Impossible. Oh, I'm sorry. Zed didn't say that. There's another mouse in the back who says that.
Oh, okay.
who says, I know who moved the cheese and I know why they moved it. Everyone turns around and they see Max, the mouse from the beginning, right? The one who's like, yo, why?
Right.
Yeah. Max goes on a tirade. He says, I know who moved the cheese and I'm going to tell you about it. So we're in a maze. There's people. I went and found them and I watched.
Like humans.
Like humans.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the only one to notice this.
Pretty much.
Okay.
All the other mice are like, yo, this is absurd. And they leave.
Right.
Zed, however, remains. And Max says, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. And Zed's like, yeah, sure, whatever. He says, I want to hear what you have to say. Max says it's been quite a year. He'd been missing for a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mice don't live very long, so that's substantial. He's a man now.
Yeah, exactly. He left a child and came back a man.
Yeah.
Max says, I've seen so much. I've learned and done so much. You are the first mouse I encountered who I'm sure will understand what I have to say. Will you listen? Yes. He says, I will start from the beginning of my journey. Please believe that everything I'm about to tell you is true, even the impossible. Zed says, yeah, I know.
Okay.
This is now up. In this chapter, we learn that Max figured out geometry and how to measure how tall the maze wall is
Right.
by measuring the shadows from a fixed light source in the room.
Okay.
And he did this because he looked up, because no other mouse looks up. The cheese is on the ground. Their lives are on the ground.
Right.
They don't have a reason to look up.
Right. Okay.
So he looked up. He found out how tall the walls were. They were as tall as 4 mice.
It's a pretty tall wall.
Pretty tall wall.
Yeah.
It's a tall wall. So he needs a way to get over there. He finds it in a mouse named Big.
Can I take a stab at his defining characteristic?
Yes.
He is large.
Yes.
Okay.
He has another characteristic as well, though.
He's got massive balls.
Maybe? Doesn't say. Can't rule it out.
He's part of the mafia.
No.
Okay.
The mouse. Yeah, I don't know. There's a joke there somewhere. Big was not his real name, but everybody called him Big because he was big.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Got
get
that part. Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Unlike others, Big never went in search of food. He never had to do so. If he went to eat and found the cheese had been moved, he wasn't bothered. His daily workout involved enough running through the maze that he invariably ran into new piles of cheese every few hours. On the rare occasion that he did not find any cheese, he would simply not eat. His friends would ask him, why don't you go look for cheese today? And he says, it's not the game I'm playing. They would go without him. So why would he work so hard to build such muscle? Why spend so much time exercising? Why bother? What was the purpose? Usually he didn't provide an answer. When he did, he would simply state, I am the purpose. Nobody bothered asking him again what that means.
It means that he is just working on himself.
Yeah, he's just doing what makes him happy.
Yeah.
That's literally the whole point.
That's his thing.
Yeah. He doesn't care that he's in a maze. He doesn't really notice. It was irrelevant. It imposed no restrictions on him. He had many friends and plenty of the time to spend with them. More importantly, his environment provided him with ample opportunity to pursue his passion, to find peace and happiness. So he didn't bother to consider the maze until he found himself for the first time considering it, noticing its existence when he met Max. Yeah. Basically, Max is like, yo, Big, we're in a maze and I want to find out what's on top of it. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll lift you up. So he does.
Nice.
That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. This chapter is called Who Moved My Cheese? And we actually are almost done.
Yeah, that's
it's
you weren't
going
kidding.
quick. I know.
You weren't kidding.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
It's a very quick book. People, our world is not given. It is not a given, excuse me. It changes and there's something that changes it.
It's almost like you said this world is not a gibbon.
I mean, it's
like
not
a monkey.
Well, I guess we don't know it's not.
We could be
on the back of a gibbon.
Yeah, we could be. Honestly, I don't know.
Like the Men in Black universe in the marble or whatever on the cat collar.
Checkmate, scientists. Prove to me we're not in a gibbon.
Prove to me that the world existed before I was born.
Yeah.
Prove to me that my memories, that any of this was real.
Prove
before
to me
I can remember.
Prove to me that my life didn't begin the second I got out of bed this morning.
Yeah.
Bam.
Done.
I fucking hate those discussions. It's so pointless.
Yeah, they're completely pointless.
It's like, so what if your life begins? Well, how are you going to live differently now?
The answer is, okay, now you're an arbitrary asshole.
Yeah, it's so...
But I mean, I guess you always were because you're actually considering this as a real possibility. But anyway.
But like, where do you go with it?
You don't.
It's like, it's also the whole free will thing. It's like, what's the point? If you don't have free will, you're just going to do what is predetermined.
Yeah.
And if you do have free will, then you're just going to keep living the way you have been.
You're going to make your choices.
Why even think about it?
Yeah.
It's so pointless.
Yeah, who cares? Look, do it or don't.
Yeah. Or just do it because that's the only thing you can do. You don't have any free will.
Anyway, Max says, since my first expedition outside the maze, I've learned tremendous amount. I've spent many months learning the language of the people. I listened to them and read what they wrote, discovered our maze is one of many. There are other mice and other beings. While all beings are different, they are also similar in some ways. We need certain amounts of cheese to sustain us, but our pursuit is not fueled by a desire to have more cheese. Having more cheese doesn't make us happier. Only getting more cheese matters to us. Only getting more cheese matters to us.
Right.
When we obtain a certain amount, we get used to it, and so we want more. Life in the maze conditions us so that no amount of cheese will ever satisfy a mouse. Happiness and peace, these are what we spend our lives pursuing as we run through the maze. But when we reach our destination, we don't find them. We only find more cheese. And then it just keeps going on about that for a while. Earlier today, Zed, you asked, is it possible to pursue happiness if the pursuit does not make you happy? How many mice have the courage to answer that question? How many will be able to accept what the answer implies and we should do? You're asking mice to do things they've never learned. You're asking them to question and to think, but they choose to accept things as given. Max says, Zed, you were asking the mice to be, but they have only learned to do.
Mm-hmm. They're not bees, though.
They're not bees. No, they're mice.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mice accept the maze as a given, and they see the walls as insurmountable. They refuse to take action. They fail to ask the most important question. I have discovered that it is not irrelevant or impractical to ask who moved my cheese, because it can be controlled. It is controlled. But mice in a maze don't control it. Mice accept their maze as a given. There is no decision but to react to the designs of others. But for those who refuse to accept the maze as a given, who will challenge its design, there is another possibility, the decision to act. And so I have acted. I was told there's no answer to the question why, but I've proven otherwise. I was taught that if anyone ever asks aloud in frustration or confusion who moved my cheese, I should tell the mouse that it doesn't matter who moved it, only that matters is the cheese is gone. Well, I have a different response to that. I moved your cheese.
I moved your cheese.
I moved your cheese.
I moved it.
And then basically he's like, yo, I was like messing with the humans' books and I had them do what I wanted them to do.
How the fuck did he do that?
Because like the people at night would leave notes for the people in the morning and he would like erase those notes and write new notes.
Damn.
Yeah. That part requires a little bit of suspension of disbelief in this book about mice.
This is like, Doctor, your handwriting is worse than normal.
Yeah. Or better.
Awful.
I mean, we don't know.
It could be better.
But yeah, so he's like, yo, I studied what they did. I learned their language. I learned how to write and I wrote and had them do things and watched what they did. And they moved your cheese and I moved it where I wanted. I designed the maze how I wanted.
Right.
It was all me. It was me, James. I am the cause of all your pain.
He played us like a goddamn fiddle.
Is it Spectre with Christoph Waltz? The cause of all your pain.
What's that from?
James Bond, Spectre.
Oh, no, I don't like James Bond.
Yeah.
I don't like
fair.
him.
That's fair. He's a face that looks like a potato. Not
He's-
Christoph Waltz,
Right.
Daniel Craig.
But like the old James Bond is extremely rapey,
Yeah.
and misogynistic.
Yeah, well, so is new James Bond, but
And okay, but James Bond is a Mary Sue, but a man. He's a
Gary Sue.
manly Sue.
a Gary Sue.
Gary Sue, yes. And I've never found him interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just do everything great. That's cool.
I watch him for the villains. The bad guys in those
Yeah.
are so good. Christopher Lee is Scaramanga.
That's true.
He's a third nipple.
Yeah. What?
His character in The Man with the Golden Gun, Christopher Lee is a third nipple.
They wrote that in.
It's a relevant plot point.
What?
It's how he knows who Scaramanga is. They're like the
Why
only
do you
way.
th-
The
this
only
isn't
way you're gonna know
real.
who he is. The only way you're gonna know who he is if he has is if you.
How
get
have I
him shirtless.
never heard of this?
Really?
I
Yeah.
know. He
Yeah.
has a third nipple.
Yeah, watch The Man with the Golden Gun. It's actually a really good
I
movie.
don't want to. That's gross. Is he going around like shirtsing guys? Just like lifting up their shirts?
No, he suspects who it is, so then he goes to his private estate and Scaramanga has a pool. So they just go swimming.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So he knew where he was already?
he suspected.
okay.
He suspected because he traced him through a specific bullet. Because so the premise is Scaramanga uses golden gun
Right.
and golden bullets
Yeah.
to kill. Each bullet costs $1 million. So you are paying him over $1 million a hit.
That's an overpriced
But he only needs one bullet.
Okay.
So he goes to the guy who makes the bullets,
Right.
and the guy's like, "Yo, I do it for this guy." So then he thinks he's just another link in the chain, but it turns out it's actually him.
That That doesn't sound like a link in the chain. It sounds like the one guy who uses golden bullets in the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
This one client.
And there's one man who can make them. And there is actually a really funny scene where it's Roger Moore is the
right,
one.
right.
The gunmaker is Roger Moore's kind of interrogating him, but like in a friendly way. And he has a gun that he has mounted, like a rifle mounted on a stand that he's testing.
Right.
And it's designed a specific way because it's designed for somebody who lost their ring and pinky finger.
Okay.
So Roger Moore points it at him and says, "This is pointing right at your balls right now." And it is.
Okay.
And then he interrogates him, and I missed a part in the beginning. I missed a part in the very beginning of the story.
Is this important?
To this? No, but it's funny. When he tests the gun, he has Roger Moore, the arms dealer has Roger Moore shoot the gun, and it hits an inch below bullseye.
Okay.
And he's like, "Yo, your sights are off." And the guy's like, "No, you have 5 fingers.
Right.
His gun is balanced for the pressure of 3.
That's cool.
It is cool. So then Roger Moore points the gun at his balls, interrogates him, and then fires, and it hits just below his balls.
Yeah.
And
on
he's
purpose
like,
this time.
Exactly. He's like, "Oh, you're right. It is it is an inch too low. Perfect." And then the guy tells him everything because he aims up a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's pretty funny. Yeah, but then that movie ends in like a funhouse maze.
Cool.
Like a mirror maze. It's really weird. It's like a carnival thing.
Uh-huh.
It's really strange. A lot of Roger Moore stuff takes place in carnivals.
That happens a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, Max is like, "Yo, I changed everything. I
am your god now.
pretty much."
Basically.
Yeah, and then Zed's like, "Thank you for sharing your story with me. Yours is truly a remarkable journey. You are a mouse like no other. Let's talk tomorrow because it's getting late. Will you meet me here tomorrow morning?" Max says, "Yeah." And then Max expected Zed to get up and walk past him down the passage. Instead, he turned towards the corner and began to walk straight towards the wall. Was Zed planning on sleeping here for the night? Who knows? Zed keeps going. He walks through the wall. Just straight through it.
Okay.
Max is flabbergasted. He doesn't sleep a wink that night. He's like, "I gotta find out what Zed's up to."
You didn't follow
What the
him?
hell was that?
You didn't follow him?
No, it's a solid wall.
I would have tried walking through it if I just saw someone else do it.
Yeah, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Zed says, "You are right, Max. It is possible to be free. And tomorrow I will tell you my story. And I have been the one talking this whole time," says Max. "Like I was telling you, but you are clearly so much more on a higher level than me."
Is this Mouse Jesus?
No,
No?
no,
Okay. Is
More
he
like-
a hologram?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, it's bullshit. But
Okay.
the next chapter is called The Maze in the Mouse. And basically it says, if you live your life defining it by a system, then you're only going to see the limitations of that system and you're not going to be creatively free to do whatever you want.
Right.
So because Zed sees outside of the maze, he doesn't put any thought to the maze. He can just avoid the maze and walk through it, which again is not how that works.
Yeah. And also, it's not very applicable to like real life scenarios.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, just because I can see the bigger picture doesn't mean those obstacles just go away.
This feels like it was written by somebody who is a billionaire now because they got a small startup loan of $1 million.
Yeah.
That's how it feels.
It's kind of that is a very like Eastern mysticism thing where it's like you reach nirvana and like things won't stand in your way anymore.
Right.
You could literally go through it as if it's not there, you
Yeah.
know, that sort of thing. So
Yeah. It's a very interesting philosophy, but sometimes it's just not true. The last chapter is called Some Mice Are Big.
I mean, one is. We know that.
Yeah, it's true. It was a day like any other for Big. He woke up.
Those are two different things.
Look, I misread.
Okay.
It was a day like any other for Big. He woke up, stretched, began his morning run. When he first decided to chart out the path he would follow during his morning runs, he had a single criterion. He wanted to sprint at maximum speed through the maze and did not want the hassle of having to dodge crowds of other mice. His path consisted of the least crowded passages in the maze, but on this day he noticed that the halls were crowded. Basically, he then just reroutes, and he goes down and finds new, uncrowded passages, and he just kind of does his own thing. The path he charted out could work for a while, but soon even more remote passages would become crowded. He reflected on the situation and found himself considering for the first time in his life the maze. He had never before given it any thought and it had been irrelevant to him, but now its design was standing in the way of his pursuit. He could not accept that. The maze was big, but it was not big enough. The maze was a way of life.
It wasn't as big as big.
It wasn't as big as big, but it was not his way of life. The maze was all he'd ever known, but it was not all he could imagine. The decision was made. It was late in the evening. Big walked towards one of the edges of the maze. When he reached the wall, he touched it gently. He took a step back, then thrust forward with all his might and punched straight through the wall.
No, he didn't.
Big stepped through the hole he had created and walked out of the maze. He would never return to it. The maze was once again irrelevant.
Is it made of styrofoam?
It was probably cardboard. I don't know. I don't know.
I need to see the size of this rat.
Mouse.
Mouse.
Yeah. Some pursuits are simply too important. Some lives are not so easily contained. Some mice are big. The end. Oh, no. Oh, the beginning.
What?
It says the beginning. This is the beginning of a new
Oh my god.
thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so then the last half of this book is discussion.
Oh my
god. We'll ask you a couple here, but
okay.
Yeah, but do you have any thoughts on the bullshit that we just read?
It sounded extremely vague and open to interpretation, which means if you want to, you could walk away with a different perspective and be like, that was a good, insightful book. But if you just don't care and are not in the mood, similar to where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving a whole lot of credence to anything this book is trying to teach me. And when you look at it like that, it's just sounds really shallow and
completely
not realistic.
I think the big issue here is that with this being like a self-help book, explaining it to somebody else doesn't mean anything because it's not their journey.
Right. Yeah.
Right. The normal consumer for this book would go out and buy it and read it themselves because they want to read it and want to know what it has to say. So they're going to take something from it. You couldn't care less, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it means that you're not gonna look for anything because who cares?
Right.
You didn't go out and buy this book.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big issue for this. I bought this for a book for the show because it was called Who Moved My or because it was called I Moved Your Cheese. And I always try to have like a little an open mind when I read things like that. So there's some things in here that make sense.
Yeah.
I see where they're coming from. I don't know that if I ever read it again, I'll be inspired anew every time I read it with these characters like the author is.
Right.
With his own characters and his own thoughts. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Were there any interesting discussion questions at the end?
There's a few. Yeah. It depends. So they're broken into sections. So there's questions for individuals, discussions for book clubs, and then discussions for organization or team.
I guess we're kind of a team.
We're kind of a team.
Let's
we're
do
also kind of a book
question.
club.
Kind of.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull a couple from each of them.
Okay.
Do you think Max could have escaped the maze without Big's help?
No. No, not at all. No.
I think he could have.
Yeah?
Because I think he would have found a different way.
You know what? I don't know a whole lot about this maze, you know?
You know as much as I do now.
Well, with the information I have, I'd have to say no. Without Big is the only way he has gotten out of the maze.
Right.
So just with that information, I'd have to say no.
So because there's only one way, that means any other way is impossible.
I'm saying, using Occam's razor,
okay,
I'm going off of the least amount of assumptions here.
Right.
So without assuming that there is another possible way, given the data I have,
we know there is one way.
I would have to say no.
I think that shows a lack of imagination.
But
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I'm not saying there is no other way. I'm saying based on the evidence.
Have you or anyone you know ever walked through a wall?
No.
How? What does it take? Why can't everyone do it?
Oh my God.
You know what it's referring to.
There was I know what it's referring to. There was an X-Files episode where a man was in a tornado and he came out with the power to walk through solid objects.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's from a tornado?
It was a tornado mixed with an electrical storm. So what happened is it gave him the power to control his own the magnetic fields in his molecules.
So he's basically vibrating.
Yes.
Super. He's the Flash.
Yeah. So it vibrates at a certain frequency so that the magnetic repulsion from electrons in other matter doesn't stop him. It just he slips through it.
Okay.
Except for glass, that was an insulator, so he couldn't get through that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Anyways,
X-Files is weird, man.
yeah.
Why doesn't Zed walk through walls all the time?
I mean, it doesn't sound like he's been walking ever. He's just been in one place. People come talk to him.
I mean, he walked through the wall with Max.
But that was the only time that he walked somewhere.
Yeah.
He's always just been sitting still.
Yeah, kind of.
Also, we don't know that he doesn't just do that all the time.
Yeah, no, that's my point to this is we don't have enough information. Like you said, we don't have enough information about this. I read the book and don't have an answer for you as to why he doesn't just walk through it because we don't know that he doesn't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think other mice will escape the maze? Or is this not possible for everyone?
I don't see why it wouldn't be possible for everyone.
I think it is entirely possible for everyone, but I also think in the way that some mice are big and they just do what they do and they don't care and then eventually Big escaped, I think some mice would just not care about doing anything other than pursuing cheese.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they just don't want to leave.
It's true.
You do you.
Just a little PSA for people. Don't feed your rodents just cheese.
Oh, don't feed anything.
Really
just cheese.
not good. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, generally speaking, don't feed cats milk.
Yeah.
It's very bad for the digestive system.
Yeah. And just don't feed dogs.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Let those suckers fend for themselves.
Oh. Oh. All right. Okay.
They can eat the cats. Every week on this show, the person who read the book must give the book a rating. Our rating system consists of 5 levels. The very bottom level, is toilet paper. The book is only worth the physical material it's made of and nothing more. The second level is shampoo bottle. It's better than nothing. The third level is IKEA manual. It's competent but not entertaining, or vice versa. The fourth level is Kindle Pick, worth buying electronically and or discounted at a used bookstore. And our final and highest level we can give a book is hardcover, instant classic. You must buy this book. So Despero, what did you think of this snake oil salesman in a paperback?
I'm going to give it 2 ratings.
Okay.
Because I'm going to rate it for the intention and I'm going to rate it for my experience.
Okay.
So if I were going out to buy a self-help book and looking for inspiration from another source,
yeah,
I would give this book a 4. I would give it a Kindle Pick.
Really?
Because there's some things in there. It is not meant to be a way of life, but there are some things in there that you can take away that might improve your situation depending on what it is and how you interpret it.
Okay.
There are some genuine little nuggets in there.
If you're stuck, go find a really big, beefy dude.
And have him punch through a wall.
Yeah.
That's it.
And climb
Or
up on his
yeet you.
shoulders.
He eats you. Yeah. So I would give it a Kindle Pick if it was something that you were going out and looking for.
Yeah.
I read it for a show and was expecting something longer and maybe more detail filled. And I will give it a 3 then. It is very competently written. It's not entertaining because it's not that kind of book.
Right. It's
and I wasn't looking for it. I did take a few things away from it that were just like, oh, that's neat, but it's not anything really.
Uh-huh.
I paid $1 for it and it was worth it. I think I wouldn't not pay $1 for it, but you have it here, so you got it for free.
$1. That's like 90 cents per page. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's look, I can't do math. Okay?
I'm proud of that joke.
That was a good joke. It was a very good joke.
If you're listening to this and you're looking for your cheese, we've got it over on our Patreon. That is patreon.com/apage2far.
Get that cheddar.
We have 3 beautiful tiers, all full of content. We do outtakes, which are like blooper reels.
Yep.
That's the best shit. Just get that.
Daddy made you some content.
In addition to that, we have footnotes, which are just like an extra long outtake if we have to go on a tangent or something.
Just something that we won't keep in a normal episode because it's too long.
Just gets too crowded.
Yeah.
And we also have bonus episodes every month. We just did a 3-hour-long episode.
So long.
For our Patreon.
That's great.
It's probably out by now, but it was a couple days late because I forgot February only has 28 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, oops. We also do movie commentaries every month. And we also, on the highest tier, we do personal shout outs.
Mm-hmm.
If you become a top tier editor, we will give you a personalized shout out. You can give us a message. We'll shout out your name and whatever you want us to say, as long as it's not horrible shit.
Yeah.
we will review it before accepting. And in addition to that, you will be privy to polls that determine what books we do for future Patreon content. You guys should also write to us at a page too far Gmail.
You should also write to us at a page too far at gmail.com.
Because I'm melting.
Page TOO far
I'm melting like the cheese.
at gmail.com. You're gone.
I am. We also have Instagram.com/page too far, as well Twitter.com/page too far.
Yep.
We also have a YouTube channel. Go there and subscribe. You don't even have to fucking do anything else. Just subscribe. It really helps us a lot.
Yep. We're working our way steadily towards that dedicated link.
Yeah, we need 100 in order to get that. So
We'll get there.
We're good there. We're 2/5 of the way there. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah. We love you.
#Cheese Goblin.
#Cheese Goblin. #Bubba lives.
My cover stinks.
It does. Yeah, my cover really stinks. I sniffed it last week.